I can possibly express, to stand on that spot where, as the Bible tells us, the light that has come into the world was born.
The British royal family is about to explode. King Charles and Prince William are preparing a decision so controversial, so shocking, that it could tear the monarchy apart forever. We're talking about stripping royal titles from people you'd never expect. And when you hear who's on the list, your jaw will drop. This isn't just about Prince Andrew. We're talking about innocent children, beloved princesses, and family members who thought they were safe. What could possibly justify this? For generations,
it's the point where it's becoming a little bit of a like tense issue. But I think he understands why. We communicate why we don't think it's right. And again, I think it's the internet access I have a problem.
Royal titles have represented more than just fancy names or prestigious positions. They've symbolized a connection to centuries of British history, a link to the crown itself, and a place within one of the world's most recognizable institutions. When someone holds a title like Duke or Duchess, Prince or Princess, it carries weight. It opens doors, commands respect, and comes with certain expectations. But it also comes with responsibilities, or at least it's supposed to. That relationship between privilege and duty is now being questioned at the highest levels of the royal family. Prince William, who will one day be king, appears to be the driving force behind this initiative. Sources close to the palace suggest he's been thinking about this for years, long before his father ascended to the throne. The question many people are asking is straightforward. Why now? Why would the future king want to strip family members of their titles? What's motivating this push for change? The answer seems to lie in Prince William's vision for the monarchy's future. He's grown up watching the institution struggle with scandals, public criticism, and a changing world that increasingly questions the relevance of hereditary privilege. He's seen how the actions of individual family members can damage the reputation of the entire royal house. And he's witnessed firsthand how the British public's patience with royal controversy has worn thin over the years. Unlike previous generations who might have preferred to handle problems quietly behind palace walls, William appears convinced that bold, visible action is necessary. The concept of modernizing the monarchy isn't new. Royal families across Europe have been adapting to contemporary expectations for decades. The Dutch royal family reduced the number of working royals receiving state support back in the early 2000s. The Spanish monarchy underwent significant reforms after King Juan Carlos abdicated amid scandal. Sweden's King Carl Gustaf announced in 2019 that several of his grandchildren would no longer be considered members of the royal house, though they would keep their titles. These precedents show that even traditional monarchies can evolve, and often must evolve, to maintain public support. What makes the British situation particularly significant is the global profile of the Windsor family. Every decision they make is scrutinized by the media around the world. Every family conflict becomes international news. Every scandal generates countless headlines and social media debates. The British royal family exists in a spotlight that few other institutions experience, which makes any kind of reform both more necessary and more complicated. Prince William's approach to his future role has been shaped by unique circumstances. He's had time to observe and learn. He's watched his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, maintain dignity and continuity through decades of social change. He's seen his father finally ascend to the throne after the longest wait of any heir in British history. And crucially, he's experienced personal tragedy and public scrutiny in ways that have given him a particular perspective on what the monarchy needs to survive. This proposed reform would reportedly use something called letters patent, which is the formal legal mechanism through which the monarch can grant or revoke titles. It's not a new tool. Letters patent have been used for centuries to define who qualifies as a prince or princess, who receives the style of Royal Highness, and what precedents different family members hold. The most famous modern example came in 1917, when King George V issued letters patent that restricted royal titles to a much smaller group of people. Before that change, the royal family had been growing unwieldy, with more and more distant relatives carrying titles and expecting recognition. King George's decision came during World War I, a time when anti-German sentiment in Britain was intense. Many members of the royal family had German titles and connections, which had become politically problematic. The king responded by narrowing the definition of who counted as royal and he even changed the family name from Saxe-Coburg-Gotha to Windsor. It was a dramatic break with tradition, motivated by the need to secure the monarchy's position during a crisis. Now, more than a century later, Prince William appears to believe another such moment has arrived. The monarchy faces different challenges than it did in 1917, but the underlying question is the same. How can this institution remain relevant and respected in a world that has moved far beyond the assumptions on which it was built? The timing of these reforms is also significant. King Charles has made his own views on streamlining the monarchy quite clear over the years. Even before becoming king, he spoke publicly about wanting a smaller, more focused royal family. He envisioned what commentators called a slimmed-down monarchy, with fewer people carrying out official duties on behalf of the crown, and fewer family members receiving financial support from public funds. Since his coronation, Charles has put some of these ideas into practice. The number of working royals has decreased, and there's been a clear emphasis on those who contribute actively to royal duties. Prince William is building on that foundation, but with his own priorities. While his father focused on efficiency and cost-effectiveness, William seems equally concerned with something else: accountability. The idea that holding a royal title should mean something beyond birth and bloodline, that it should reflect actual service to the nation and adherence to the values the monarchy claims to represent. This isn't just about saving money or reducing the number of people on the Buckingham Palace balcony during trooping. The colour. It's about redefining what it means to be royal in the 21st century. And that redefinition has consequences for specific individuals, some of whom have been part of the royal story for their entire lives. The public reaction to news of these potential reforms has been mixed, which is hardly surprising given how divisive royal matters have become in recent years. Some people applaud the idea of a more streamlined, accountable monarchy. They argue that taxpayers shouldn't be supporting individuals who don't contribute to national life, or who have brought embarrassment to the institution. Others worry that this represents a cold, calculating approach to family relationships, prioritizing public relations over loyalty and compassion. What makes this situation particularly fascinating is that the names reportedly on the list aren't all obvious choices. Some are expected, even overdue, according to many observers. But others have surprised even seasoned royal watchers, suggesting that Prince William is willing to make difficult personal decisions in service of what he sees as the institution's greater good. If there's one name that appears on Prince William's reported list of title removals that surprises absolutely no one, it's Prince Andrew. The Duke of York's fall from grace has been so complete, so public, and so damaging to the royal family that many people have wondered for years why he still holds any titles at all. For someone who was once considered Queen Elizabeth's favourite son, who served in the Falklands War and carried out royal duties for decades, the collapse has been spectacular and seemingly irreversible. Prince Andrew's problems began with his association with Jeffrey Epstein, the American financier who was convicted of sex offenses and who died in prison in 2019. Epstein's network of powerful connections included politicians, business leaders, academics, and celebrities from around the world. Prince Andrew was among them. Photographs emerged showing the prince at various social events with Epstein. Flight logs indicated he had traveled on Epstein's private jet. Witnesses placed him at properties associated with the financier. As the full scope of Epstein's crimes became public knowledge, everyone connected to him faced scrutiny, but few had as much to lose as a member of the British royal family. The initial response from the palace was what royal watchers have come to recognize as the standard approach: minimal comment, careful distance, hope that the story would fade. But this story didn't fade. As more accusers came forward with allegations against Epstein and his associates, pressure mounted on Prince Andrew to address his relationship with the convicted criminal. The prince maintained that he had made an error of judgment in maintaining the friendship after Epstein's first conviction, but insisted he had done nothing wrong himself. Then came the interview that changed everything. In November 2019, Prince Andrew sat down with Emily Maitlis for BBC Newsnight, in what was supposed to be an opportunity to clear his name and draw a line under the controversy. Instead, the interview became one of the most catastrophic public relations disasters in modern royal history. The prince's answers struck many viewers as tone-deaf at best. He claimed he couldn't have been at a London nightclub on a specific date because he was at a Pizza Express in Woking with his daughter. He said he didn't remember meeting one of his accusers, despite a widely circulated photograph showing them together. He suggested he had a medical condition at the time that prevented him from sweating, contradicting claims made about him. Perhaps most damagingly, he expressed no sympathy for Epstein's victims and showed no regret about the friendship beyond calling it unbecoming for a member of the royal family. The reaction was immediate and brutal. Media outlets across the political spectrum condemned the interview. Legal experts questioned his statements. Public opinion turned sharply against him. Sponsors began distancing themselves from charities and organizations associated with the prince. Universities reconsidered his patronages. Within days, the situation had become untenable. Prince Andrew announced he would step back from public duties for the foreseeable future, a decision made in consultation with the Queen. It was presented as temporary, but everyone understood it was permanent. The palace moved quickly to contain the damage. Prince Andrew's military appointments were returned to the Queen. His royal patronages were redistributed to other family members. His office at Buckingham Palace was closed. He stopped using the style of His Royal Highness in any official capacity, though technically he still held it. For all practical purposes, Prince Andrew ceased to be a working royal. He disappeared from the official royal website's list of current working members. His social media accounts went silent. The institution did everything it could to create distance without actually stripping his titles. But that's where things have remained stuck for several years now. Despite being effectively exiled from royal duties, despite settling a civil lawsuit in the United States, despite overwhelming public sentiment that he should face further consequences, Prince Andrew has retained his title as Duke of York. That title, granted to him by his mother on his wedding day in 1986, carries significant historical weight. The Duke of York is traditionally given to the second son of the monarch, a practice going back centuries. Previous Dukes of York included King George VI before he unexpectedly became king, and King George V before him. For many people, both inside and outside the palace, this situation has become increasingly awkward. The title Duke of York should represent service, dignity, and royal tradition. Instead, it has become associated with scandal and shame. The city of York itself has had to grapple with whether to maintain its connection to a patron whose reputation has been so thoroughly damaged. Tourism officials face questions about whether to promote the royal connection. Local politicians have debated whether to formally request the title be removed. Prince William reportedly sees this lingering association as unacceptable for the monarchy he will one day lead. The institution cannot afford to carry the weight of Prince Andrew's reputation indefinitely. Every news story that mentions the Duke of York, every photograph that resurfaces, every legal development serves as a reminder of one of the royal family's darkest chapters in recent memory. For a prince trying to modernize and restore public trust in the monarchy, allowing this situation to continue, unchanged, represents a failure of leadership. The mechanism for removing the title exists. Letters patent, the same legal instrument that granted the dukedom, can revoke it. The process requires the monarch's signature, which means King Charles would need to formally strip his own brother of the title. That makes it deeply personal and potentially divisive within the family. But sources suggest that Prince William has convinced his father that this step is necessary, that sentiment and family loyalty must sometimes give way to institutional necessity. What would this mean in practical terms? Prince Andrew would revert to being simply Prince Andrew, a title he holds by birth as a son of the Queen. He would lose the Duke of York designation entirely. The title itself would become vacant, available to be granted to someone else in the future, or to remain unused. It would represent the most significant formal punishment the royal family has imposed on one of its own in modern times. The public response to such a move would likely be overwhelmingly positive. Poll after poll has shown that British people want the monarchy to take stronger action regarding Prince Andrew. Many feel that the half measures taken so far, removing duties but keeping titles, send the wrong message about accountability. If the monarchy wants to demonstrate that it holds its members to high standards, that no one is above scrutiny regardless of their birth, then formal removal of Andrew's dukedom would provide tangible proof. There would, of course, be critics. Some traditionalists might argue that family matters should remain private, that airing this kind of conflict publicly diminishes the monarchy's mystique. Others might suggest that Prince Andrew has already been punished enough, that he's lost his role and his reputation, and lives in relative obscurity. They might point out that he has never been charged with any crime in the United Kingdom, and that removing his title feels like punishment without due process. But Prince William appears to have concluded that these concerns are outweighed by the damage that inaction causes. The monarchy's legitimacy in the modern era depends on public support, and public support requires accountability. When a member of the royal family becomes a liability rather than an asset, when their presence undermines rather than supports the institution's standing, then difficult decisions must be made. This wouldn't be about revenge or personal animosity. Those close to Prince William describe him as someone who understands the difference between family relationships and institutional responsibility. He can acknowledge that Prince Andrew is his uncle, while also recognizing that the uncle's actions have consequences for the entire family and the monarchy itself. The decision to remove the Duke of York title would be framed as exactly that, a decision made for institutional reasons rather than personal ones. The timing of such an announcement would be carefully managed. It wouldn't happen during a moment of crisis or appear reactive to new revelations. Instead, it would likely be presented as part of a broader modernization effort, one element of Prince William's vision for a reformed monarchy. That context would help soften what might otherwise seem like a purely punitive action, positioning it instead as forward-looking and principled. While the potential removal of Prince Andrew's titles might not shock many observers, the next names on Prince William's reported list cut far deeper and touch on wounds that remain raw within the royal family. The relationship between Prince William and his younger brother, Prince Harry, represents one of the most painful fractures in modern royal history. These two men, once inseparable, once united in grief and purpose, now find themselves on opposite sides of a widening divide that threatens to become permanent. For anyone who remembers the late 1990s, the image of William and Harry walking behind their mother's coffin remains seared into memory. Two young boys, thrust into unimaginable circumstances, mourning their mother while the entire world watched. That shared tragedy seemed to forge an unbreakable bond between them. They grew up together in the spotlight, navigated the complexities of royal life together, supported each other through military service, and the challenges of finding their places in a changing institution. For years, they presented a united front, brothers who understood each other in ways no one else could. But time and circumstance changed everything. The first cracks began to show as the brothers matured and took on different roles within the Rosend family structure. William, as the heir, faced increasing pressure and responsibility. His path was set from birth. Harry, as the spare, struggled to find meaningful purpose within an institution that had a clearly defined role for his older brother, but seemed uncertain about what he should do. That tension, inherent in the structure of hereditary monarchy, began to manifest in different ways as they entered their 30s. Then came Meghan Markle. When Prince Harry met and fell in love with the American actress, it seemed at first like a positive development. Here was a modern, accomplished woman who brought diversity and a fresh perspective to the royal family. The wedding in May 2018 was celebrated as a moment of progress, a sign that the monarchy could evolve and embrace change. But the relationship between Meghan and the royal institution quickly became complicated. Reports of tensions between the Duchess of Sussex and palace staff began to circulate. Stories about disagreements with other family members, including Catherine, became tabloid fodder. The British press coverage of Meghan grew increasingly hostile, with some commentators noting disturbing racial undertones in how she was portrayed. By nearly 2020, the situation had reached a breaking point. In January of that year, Harry and Meghan announced they were stepping back as senior working royals. The statement, released without prior consultation with other family members, shocked the palace and the public. They spoke of wanting to become financially independent, to split their time between the United Kingdom and North America, and to continue supporting the Queen while building a more private life. The announcement triggered what the British media dubbed Megxit, a period of intense negotiation and public speculation about what this departure would mean. The settlement that emerged from those discussions was clear. Harry and Meghan would no longer carry out official royal duties. They would not use their his and her Royal Highness styles, though they would technically retain them. They would repay taxpayer money spent on renovating their home at Frogmore Cottage. They would pursue independent income, and they would relocate to North America, eventually settling in California. It was presented as an amicable arrangement, a modern solution to a complicated situation, but the underlying tensions were obvious to anyone paying attention. What came next transformed this family disagreement into a public rupture. In March 2021, Harry and Meghan sat down with Oprah Winfrey for a televised interview that generated global headlines. They spoke candidly about their experiences within the royal family, making claims that shocked viewers around the world. Meghan revealed she had experienced suicidal thoughts during her time as a working royal and felt she received no support from the institution. Harry spoke about feeling trapped within the system and drew parallels to what his mother had experienced. Most explosively, they alleged that a member of the royal family had expressed concerns about how dark their son Archie's skin might be, a claim that raised serious questions about racism within the palace. The interview put the royal family in an impossible position. Remaining silent would seem to validate the accusations. Responding directly would only fuel the story and potentially escalate the conflict. The palace eventually issued a brief statement, noting that some recollections may vary, but saying the issues raised, particularly around race, were concerning and would be addressed privately. It was a carefully calibrated response that satisfied no one and resolved nothing. Then came Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, published in January 2023. The book provided an intimate, often painful account of his life as the younger brother, the one whose existence was defined by being the backup to the heir. Harry wrote about feeling sidelined, about conflicts with William that occasionally turned physical, about his complicated relationship with his father, and about the media intrusion that had plagued him since childhood. The book became an international bestseller, but it also deepened the rift between Harry and his family. Private conversations and disagreements were now public knowledge. Family dynamics were dissected by millions of readers. Any hope of quickly repairing relationships seemed to evaporate. For Prince William, these public revelations represented more than just personal betrayal. They challenged the fundamental principle he believed should govern the monarchy: that royal duty requires discretion, that family matters should remain private, and that representing the crown means putting institutional needs above personal grievances. From William's perspective, you cannot claim to be part of the royal family while simultaneously criticizing it on global platforms. You cannot live in California, pursue commercial ventures, and still expect to be treated as a working royal. This philosophical difference appears to be at the heart of William's reported plans regarding Harry's titles. The Duke of Sussex title, granted to Harry on his wedding day, represents his position within the royal hierarchy. But if that position no longer includes any actual royal duties, if Harry has chosen a different path, then William reportedly believes the title should reflect that reality. The same logic would apply to Meghan's Duchess of Sussex title, which she continues to use despite no longer being a working member of the family. Removing these titles would make official what has already become the practical reality. Harry and Meghan have built a life separate from the royal family. They have their own charitable foundation, their own media projects, their own public identities that don't depend on Buckingham Palace. Stripping the Sussex titles would simply formalize that independence, drawing a clear line between those who serve the monarchy and those who have chosen to step away. But the situation becomes even more complex when considering Harry and Meghan's children, Archie and Lilibet. Under the established rules, specifically the 1917 letters patent as understood after Queen Elizabeth's death, both children are entitled to be called Prince and Princess as grandchildren of the reigning monarch. When Charles became king, that meant Archie and Lilibet technically qualified for these titles. The question of whether they would actually use them became a point of tension between the Sussexes and the palace, with Harry and Meghan suggesting there was resistance to granting their children titles, while the palace maintained the decision was the parents' to make. Prince William's reform plans could render that entire debate moot. If he proceeds with changing the criteria for who qualifies for royal titles, restricting them to those who live in the United Kingdom and actively serve the crown, then Archie and Lilibet would lose their claim to being Prince and Princess. They would simply be Master Archie, Mountbatten Windsor, and Miss Lilibet, Mountbatten Windsor, the children of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, or just the children of Harry and Meghan if their parents' titles are also removed. This prospect raises difficult questions about fairness and family. Archie and Lilibet are young children who had no say in their parents' decisions. They were born into the royal family, but are being raised in California, far from the institution that defines their heritage. Should they be held accountable for choices their parents made? Is it right to exclude them from titles they would have received automatically in any other generation? Supporters of William's position argue that titles should mean something concrete. If Archie and Lilibet grow up in America, attend American schools, and live private lives without royal duties, then calling them prince and princess would be purely ceremonial. It would attach royal status to individuals who have no real connection to the institution. Better, they argue, to be honest about the situation and let these children build their identities without the burden of titles they will never actively use. Critics see it differently. They view the potential exclusion of Harry's children as punitive, a way of punishing Harry and Meghan by denying their children something that would have been theirs by right. They note that other royal children who don't perform duties still hold titles. They worry that this sets a precedent where family disagreements result in children being cut off from their heritage, and they question whether William is allowing personal hurt to influence decisions that should be about institutional principle. The emotional dimension cannot be ignored. For Harry, who has spoken extensively about feeling like the spare, watching his own children potentially be excluded from the family must echo painful patterns from his own life. For William, who believes deeply in the monarchy's need to evolve, these decisions represent difficult but necessary steps toward ensuring the institution's survival. The brothers, once so close, now see the same situation through completely different lenses, and that divergence seems unlikely to be bridged anytime soon. Beyond the high-profile cases of Prince Andrew and Prince Harry, Prince William's reform agenda extends to other members of the extended royal family who find themselves caught in an uncomfortable middle ground. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, the daughters of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, represent a particularly delicate situation. They are royals by birth, carrying the title of princess and the style of Her Royal Highness. Yet they have never been working royals in the formal sense. They don't carry out official duties on behalf of the crown, they don't receive funding from the sovereign grant, and they have built independent careers outside the palace walls. Beatrice currently works as Vice President of Partnerships and Strategy at a software company, a role she has held for several years. Eugenie has carved out a career in the art world and has been involved in various sustainability initiatives. Both sisters are married, raising their own children, and maintaining relatively low public profiles compared to their more prominent cousins. They attend family events, appear at royal weddings and funerals, and occasionally show up at charity functions, but their day-to-day lives look more like those of successful professional women than traditional royals. This creates a complicated question for Prince William's streamlined monarchy. On one hand, Beatrice and Eugenie have done nothing to bring shame to the royal family. Unlike their father, they have conducted themselves with dignity and discretion. They have managed to balance their royal heritage with modern careers in a way that many people admire. On the other hand, they represent exactly the kind of situation William reportedly wants to address. They carry prestigious titles based solely on their birth, titles that connect them symbolically to an institution they don't actually serve. There is historical precedent for this kind of decision. Princess Anne, William's aunt, made the choice not to give her children any royal titles at all. Peter Phillips and Zara Tindall grew up as the grandchildren of the Queen, but without the burden of being prince and princess. That decision, made in consultation with the Queen at the time of their births, allowed them to build remarkably normal lives by royal standards. Peter has worked in sports management and hospitality. Zara became an Olympic equestrian, married a former rugby player, and built a successful career in her sport. Both are well regarded, appear at family functions when appropriate, but live outside the constraints and scrutiny that come with formal royal status. Prince William appears to view the Phillips and Tindall example as a model worth following. It demonstrates that you can be part of the royal family, maintain close relationships with working royals, and still live an independent life without titles. More importantly, it shows that the next generation can thrive without the weight of royal protocol governing every aspect of their existence. William and Catherine have reportedly thought carefully about how their own children, particularly Charlotte and Louis, who are not direct heirs, will navigate their futures. The desire to give them options, to let them build meaningful lives that aren't entirely defined by their birth, seems to inform William's thinking about royal titles more broadly. If William proceeds with revising who holds royal titles, Beatrice and Eugenie would likely be among those affected. They might retain their titles for their lifetimes, but see them structured differently, perhaps without the HRH style, or they might transition to a status more similar to that of their cousins. Such a change would inevitably feel personal, even if presented as institutional reform. Both sisters have remained close to various family members, including William, and finding themselves effectively demoted could strain those relationships, regardless of how diplomatically the transition is managed. The situation is further complicated by their father's scandals. While Beatrice and Eugenie bear no responsibility for Prince Andrew's actions, they have undoubtedly been affected by the fallout. Their public images are inevitably tied to his, fairly or not. Some observers have suggested that distancing them from formal royal status might actually benefit the sisters in the long run, allowing them to step further out of a shadow that isn't of their making. Others argue that penalizing them for their father's mistakes compounds the injustice. To truly understand why Prince William feels empowered to pursue such significant reforms, it helps to look at the experiences that shaped his worldview. William's early life was marked by contradictions between privilege and tragedy, between public duty and private pain. Born in June 1982, he arrived as the future king, the heir who would one day inherit the throne. But his mother, Princess Diana, was determined that he would also understand life beyond palace gates. She took him to homeless shelters, arranged visits to hospitals, and ensured he saw how most people actually lived. That unconventional approach to royal parenting gave William a perspective that previous generations often lacked. The defining trauma of William's youth came in August 1997, when Diana died in a car crash in Paris. William was just 15 years old, on summer holiday with his father and brother at Balmoral, when he received the news. The days that followed remain among the most scrutinized moments in modern royal history. William and Harry walking behind their mother's coffin, the young princes forced to grieve publicly while the world watched, became emblematic of both the monarchy's emotional distance and its human vulnerability. That experience fundamentally changed William's relationship with royal life. It made him protective of privacy, skeptical of media narratives, and acutely aware that institutional traditions could sometimes conflict with basic human needs. His education reflected an attempt to balance royal expectations with normal development. At Eton College, William was known for being grounded, despite his unique position. He participated in sports, developed friendships, and managed to maintain some degree of normalcy even as his future role loomed over everything. At the University of St Andrews in Scotland, where he studied geography, William experienced something closer to ordinary student life. He lived in regular accommodation, attended normal classes, and met Catherine Middleton in circumstances far removed from royal formality. That relationship, which developed over several years before becoming romantic, gave William insight into how someone from outside the royal bubble perceived the institution he would one day lead. After university, William followed the royal tradition of military service, but he approached it differently than previous generations. He trained at Sandhurst Military Academy, served with the Royal Air Force in search and rescue operations, and later worked as an air ambulance pilot. These weren't ceremonial positions or token appointments. They were real jobs that required skill, training, and genuine commitment. William worked shifts, responded to emergencies, and saw British life from a perspective few royals had experienced. He attended road accidents, medical emergencies, and crisis situations that gave him direct exposure to the challenges ordinary people face. When William married Catherine in April 2011, it represented a significant moment for the monarchy's evolution. Catherine came from an upper-middle-class background. Her parents ran a successful party supplies business. She attended good schools and had a comfortable upbringing, but she wasn't aristocratic by traditional standards. The term commoner was used, somewhat awkwardly, to describe her status before marriage. That she could marry the future king and be enthusiastically embraced by the public suggested that the British people cared less about bloodlines than previous generations had. What mattered was character, capability, and genuine connection. Together, William and Catherine have crafted a public image that emphasizes accessible royalty. They're hands-on parents to their 3 children, George, Charlotte, and Louis. They've been photographed doing school runs, attending children's birthday parties, and engaging in normal family activities in ways that were rare for previous royal generations. Their official work focuses on issues like mental health, early childhood development, and environmental conservation, areas where they can demonstrate practical impact rather than just ceremonial presence. This approach reflects William's belief that the monarchy's survival depends on demonstrating value and purpose, not just maintaining tradition for its own sake. William's philosophy represents a bridge between different eras of royal thinking. His grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, embodied stability and consistency. She reigned for 70 years by adhering to protocol, maintaining distance, and letting the institution speak louder than the individual. Her approach worked for most of her reign, providing continuity through enormous social change. King Charles, by contrast, has spent decades advocating for modernization, from environmental causes to interfaith dialogue to more transparent financial practices. He waited longer than any previous heir to become king, which gave him time to develop strong opinions about what needed to change. Prince William represents the next evolution. He respects the tradition his grandmother represented and supports the reforms his father has initiated, but he's also willing to go further. He sees the monarchy as a civic institution that must justify its existence through service, rather than expecting deference based on hereditary right. This perspective aligns with broader social changes happening across democratic societies. Younger generations are less impressed by titles and more interested in accomplishments. They're more likely to question inherited privilege and more demanding of accountability from powerful institutions. International precedents support this direction. European monarchies have been adapting for years. The Dutch royal family reduced the number of relatives receiving state funding and performing official duties. The Spanish monarchy underwent significant reforms after King Juan Carlos stepped down amid a financial scandal. Perhaps most notably, Sweden's King Carl Gustaf announced in 2019 that 5 of his grandchildren would no longer be considered members of the royal house. They would keep their titles but wouldn't be expected to perform royal duties or receive public funding. The decision was presented as giving these young people freedom to shape their own futures while ensuring that the working monarchy remained focused and efficient. Prince William appears to be drawing on these examples as he considers Britain's future. The support of his father is crucial. King Charles has spoken for years about wanting a slimmed-down monarchy, one that focuses resources on a core group of working royals while reducing the extended family's role in public life. Since becoming king, Charles has put some of these ideas into practice, though the transition has been gradual and careful. With William's eventual ascension still years away, there's time to plan these changes thoughtfully, rather than implementing them hastily in response to the crisis. The ultimate question is whether these reforms will strengthen or weaken the monarchy. Supporters argue that clarity about who represents the crown and who doesn't will improve public understanding and support. They believe that holding royals accountable, even when it means difficult family decisions, demonstrates that the institution takes its responsibilities seriously. Critics worry that these changes are too focused on public relations and not enough on maintaining family bonds. They suggest that the monarchy's strength has always come partly from its continuity and its ability to keep internal conflicts private. Making such dramatic changes risks exposing divisions that might better be handled quietly. What seems clear is that Prince William is committed to leaving his own mark on the institution. He doesn't want to simply inherit the monarchy his grandmother and father shaped. He wants to transform it for an era when traditional authority must be earned rather than assumed. Whether that transformation succeeds will depend on many factors, including public reception, family dynamics, and events no one can currently predict. But the willingness to pursue significant reform, even at personal cost, suggests that William is prepared to be a very different kind of king than Britain has known before.